Hey everyone, it's Raheel.
13 investigates tracking more problems at the Harris County Jail. A fourth inmate has now died there this month.
Tonight, 13 investigates confirm the state recently cited the jail for failing to provide insulin to an inmate who died in their custody.
New tonight, a man ends up hospitalized in a coma after an accident at the Harris County Jail.
Headlines like these have become all too common in the news. 27 inmates died inside Harris County Jail last year, and 12 inmates have already died just 5 months into this year. Stats like these make you wonder, what is going on inside Harris County Jail? Why are so many inmates dying in our jail? And what's being done to prevent more deaths? ABC 13 reporter Pooja Lodia has been investigating our county jail, and she joins me to explain it all. It's Wednesday, May 17th. I'm Raheel Ramzanali, and here's what Houston's talking about. Welcome into CityCast Houston. How are you?
I'm great. Thank you so much for having me. This seems like such a great podcast. I'm excited.
Thank you. Thank you. It's a lot of fun, and you better subscribe after we're done here, okay?
Promise.
I love it. All right. So House Bill 3434, which is going to call on the jail standards to be reviewed of what's happening at Harris County jails, right? There were 12 deaths in 2023 so far. The FBI launched an investigation earlier this year as well. What is going on at Harris County jails, Pooja?
It really is hard to watch and even hard for us to do stories about. Basically, if you ask anybody what is happening with the Harris County Jail, is there are just so many people there. I actually just pulled this up live, and I'm going to pull this up one more time just so we can get this. The current jail population for today at the Harris County Jail is hovering right at around 10,000 inmates. There are 1,000 inmates who have been sent to other areas because we just don't have space for them. And this is another big number. Their average length of stay is 194 days. So that means that these inmates who have not been tried yet, they're waiting for their trials, they are waiting there for 194 days. That, of course, puts a huge strain on medical staff, on jail staff. We know that there's a huge case backlog with the Harris County District Attorney's Office. That's been caused for a couple of different reasons. Harvey, of course, really kind of delayed a lot of trials in our area. Also COVID. So kind of a combination of all these things, as well as the fact that there has been more violent crime in our area over the past couple of years. So all of a sudden you have a system that really isn't working. And I think, we've interviewed the Sheriff Ed Gonzalez, and he will admit it's not working. They haven't been able to hire enough people to work at the jail. It really is kind of a mess out there. And suddenly you have these situations that just shouldn't be happening. I mean, the Harris County Jail has been cited for uncompliance several times from the state. In fact, the last time was just in March because an inmate was able to enter a restroom and stay there for 88 minutes without anybody checking on him. That's something that happens when you have a huge jail population and a system that really can't handle it. So we're talking about a record 27 deaths inside the jail last year and 12 this year.
Yeah, and one of the deaths that you reported on was the death of Matthew Shelton. Tell me what happened in that situation.
It really is a very sad situation. Matthew Shelton was somebody who turned himself into the Harris County Jail on a DWI charge. So he went there willingly saying, hey, I'm going to, turn myself in. 5 days later, he was dead. And he was diabetic. The state has cited the Harris County Jail for not providing insulin in a timely manner. But you gotta think for these families, I think one of the hardest things is not only the fact that obviously their loved ones are dying, but it's how difficult it is to get information. When you talk about a Harris County Jail system, there are so many layers, there are so many investigations, and these agencies don't release information when there are ongoing investigations. So the family of Matthew Shelton has hired an attorney, but they haven't actually spoken with the sheriff or anybody at the jail ever about this. And I think that is really difficult for these families. I should actually also go back to that House bill that we started out with, because that's another inmate. That was Evan Lee. We've spoken to his family multiple times. His death was actually ruled a homicide, but this family, again, hasn't been able to talk to anybody at the jail. There's a federal investigation into what's going on, but all they know is that their loved one was taken to the jail and didn't come back.
Information is big, right? When there is a death, families want to know. I think the citizens of Houston need to know what exactly happened as well. And then we also have a new bill that's being pushed right now, Senate Bill 1896, which basically says that if someone dies of natural causes in jail custody, no outside law enforcement agency would be able to investigate that death. And that leaves another hole there for families, like what exactly happened to my family member inside that jail cell.
Exactly. And that's why a lot of these sort of inmate rights groups are really speaking out about that. I have, though, also spoken to police officers. I've spoken with members of the police union and others who kind of feel the same way, who say, listen, there are not enough resources. If somebody dies from natural causes, they're older, they have heart issues, they have a heart attack, something like that. That isn't something that would normally be investigated. So why are we doing it if it's inside the jail? Of course, the flip side to all of that is, hey, if we send somebody to the jail, they're supposed to come out alive. That's your responsibility. So I think it goes both ways. It'll be interesting to see what happens with that. Because like you said, I think for these families, they want more and more and more investigation, not less.
So during your investigation, which you've done such a great job so far for ABC 13, what other findings did you come across that we need to know about?
I think it really is the population that has really stuck out to me when you think about how many people are in there. Because I think one of the problems maybe, but one of the issues we've faced while interviewing a lot of these elected officials, we interviewed the district attorney, we interviewed the sheriff, we interviewed the county judge, and all of them kind of blame the other branches. And as much as we obviously don't want our elected officials to do that, I do think that there's a point there. This is a systemic issue. It isn't just one agency's fault. And it really does feel that way as we have been looking into more and more of these cases.
So what can be done? What are they doing now? Instead of blaming each other, are they working together to solve this? Or is this an issue we're going to be living here in the city with for a while?
Well, the district attorney's office has been able to reduce some of its backlog, and there are steps being taken in order to continue to reduce that. I know county commissioners have been discussing putting in more courts to make that system a little bit bigger. From the jail standpoint, Harris Health has instituted multiple policies that hadn't been in place before. So Harris Health took over healthcare for the jail last March, and actually, many of their kind of new protocol went into effect the day after Matthew Shelton died. So it really is kind of a bad situation there. But according to Harris Health, there have been issues with delivering medications. They want to make sure that a lot of these visits are taken care of because, again, it does go back to the staffing. What had been happening at the jail is that doctors would say, hey, this inmate needs this medication, but there were no nurses to take the patient to go get those medications. There were always delays in terms of medical visits and things like that. So that's something that Harris Health is really working on quickly, and also kind of working out scheduling and things like that. So I know Harris Health has taken some steps and is continuing to do so.
Let's talk about consequences. I want to go back to some of the deaths that you mentioned, right? Like these are tragic deaths. The investigations are still ongoing, so we're still trying to learn about what happened in some situations. Have there been any consequences yet for those deaths of the inmates?
At this point, the Harris County Jail has been found non-compliant multiple times, but no. I mean, other than being called non-compliant, there aren't real penalties that have gone into effect. We know that there are federal investigations going on. We know that there are lawsuits going on. But at this point, there haven't been endings for a lot of those. We do know that one actual, and I should pull up some information on that, but several months ago, a Harris County detention officer as well as several other employees were also fired due to an inmate death investigation. So we do know that the sheriff is taking this seriously, and there have been consequences for those who have been involved in this. But I think when you're talking about the kinds of consequences that these families are pushing for, shutting down the jail or having somebody else come in, we haven't seen anything close to that.
All right, so we've already talked about what's happened, and for the rest of the year in 2023, there have already been 12 deaths. Last year, there was 27. Do we get under that 27 number, do you think, with all these changes?
I think that's what everybody is hoping for. I think that is what everybody is working toward, trying to make sure that there are no deaths in the Harris County Jail. Because again, that just isn't something that should happen. These are people who have been arrested. They have not been found guilty of anything. They should not be in a position where they're not receiving medical care and they're potentially dying.
Thank you so much. The information was great, and we really hope that things turn around at the Harris County jails.
I agree. Thank you so much.
That was Pooja Lodia. You can watch her every day on ABC 13 or follow her with the link in our show notes. Before we go, have you ever wondered what exactly is inside our city's budget? Well, a website is out there explaining it all. HoustonBudget.cool, yes, I said cool, took last year's $5.1 billion budget and simplified it into data that we can all understand. The website even lets you create your own budget and allocate funds to departments as you see fit, and then compare it to what the actual 2022 allocation was from the city to those departments. Speaking of budget, the city is holding a special called Budget and Fiscal Affairs Committee meeting to start discussions on the fiscal year 2024 budget. I've included a link in our show notes for where you can watch that meeting. That will do it for today. Thank you for listening, and I hope you learned something new. Boom. Easy peasy.
Wow. That was so fun.